In our video here, we're going to look at activity 1.4.3, the sketching practice. In this activity, you're going to be making some pictorial drawings of different objects viewed by the human eye. So in this, we're going to do two different kind of pictorial drawings. We're going to do an isometric sketch that shows an object with the width, depth, and height projected at 30-degree angles from a horizontal axis. We'll also be doing a perspective drawing in our next video of objects that are the most realistic view and shown like the human eye would naturally see it. So on your sheet, we're going to answer some questions and do some drawings as we progress through this 8-page document. I'm going to skip some of the questions because those can be looked up using the PowerPoint slideshows. So I'm going to be focusing on how to do the drawings on this worksheet. So I'm going to zoom in so we can get a nice view of what we're going to be working on. Number 2 asks us to practice pictorial sketching with the two objects that your teacher provides, and to remember to use a pencil and sketch lightly, darken your final image. So these drawings that we're going to make, we're going to use construction lines or light lines first. So in case we need to erase parts or the whole image, we're able to do so relatively easily. We're going to use some basic shapes that I have here in the classroom, and if you're viewing this video, you just need to copy what I'm doing here on this sheet for practice. So we're going to draw a basic rectangular block. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to start with a horizontal line that's centered in the middle of the box here, and it's off to the left a little bit, not completely centered left to right. All my lines are going to be parallel to each other relative to the direction they're facing. So this line here, I'm going to have some lines going left to right horizontally that are going to be parallel to it. So imagine this is going to be the top of our block we're making. What I want to do next is I want to draw a line going diagonal from this side. I want to draw a line diagonal from this corner that's parallel to this line. So it will be going up, and it's going to be the same length. Now, while we're drawing, if one line does end up longer than the other, that's not to be a concern because we're drawing construction lines, and that will allow us to erase those little tails that end up appearing, like I have right here. So those aren't a big deal. So what I've just created is the top of this block. So this panel right here is going to represent the top of this block I'm going to make. Now we're going to be able to see the right side of this block. So what I want to do is I want to make some lines going up and down vertically. And these two are going to be the same length. And I want to draw a line that is parallel to this line that will connect these two together. So it'll appear like this. Over on the left side, this corner here, I'm going to draw a line going vertical. And notice it's parallel to this line. This line is parallel to this line. So all the vertical lines are parallel, horizontal lines are parallel, and these diagonal lines are parallel to one another. So they're all going the same direction. And I'm going to go back over here to the right, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line coming out here. I'm going to draw a horizontal line going out here, and then I'm going to draw a diagonal line here that's parallel to this line. Next, I'm going to draw a vertical line here. I'm going to draw a vertical line here, and then I'm going to draw another diagonal line here that's parallel to this diagonal line. Finally, I'm going to draw a horizontal line going across, and that finalizes my block I've made. Notice again, some of the lines, construction lines, are visible and clearly hanging off the edge, and that's okay, because what I want to do next is I want to darken all of my construction lines that form the outline of my shape. Depending on how we're using these types of drawings, we may need to get rid of the extra construction lines that are visible. So if this is supposed to be a sketch that we're going to use in a sketchbook just for an idea for ourselves, a quick drawing, generally these construction lines can be left. If we're going to use this for a presentation, sometimes getting rid of those construction lines may be helpful for a viewer to see exactly what we're trying to portray in our picture. The next box, we're going to draw another image. This time it's going to be a cylinder, a relatively flat cylinder. So what we'll do is we're going to draw an oval. Because we're standing above this object and we're seeing it not head on from the top or from the side, the top of this is going to look like an oval. I'm going to draw two lines going straight down. That's going to be the sides of our cylinder. And then the final line I need to draw, the arc, will be the same arc I drew here. So I want it to look pretty similar. Now, since we're drawing by hand, naturally it's not going to be perfect, but we want it pretty close, like I did here. And if everything looks good, you'll again go in and darken all the lines to make those object line, not a construction line. We'll switch to number 3, which tells us to create an isometric sketch of a cube using this graph paper. So on our sheet here, we're going to do an isometric drawing of a simple cube. An isometric drawing has us start with a plane, a horizon, and I'm drawing this in as a reference. And I'm going to pick a point in the center of this graph paper. And notice the graph paper does not have horizontal lines. It has vertical lines and it has diagonal lines. And that is because in these drawings we don't need horizontal lines. So in a isometric drawing, we're trying to show as much detail about an object as possible. And the object is going to have a 30-degree angle here at its base. So once we draw a cube, you'll see this 30-degree angle up here. I'm going to start on this point, and for my cube, I'm going to draw 6 line segments deep. And a line segment can be defined as this little segment of line going from this point to this point. So I'm going to go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this direction is depth. We're going to then measure 6 line segments wide. So going to the left here is going to be our width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is going to be the front bottom edge of this cube. And then the height is going to be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the bottom right corner of our cube. The next thing is on the ends of the lines that we just drew, we're going to go up 6 line segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to connect the tops of these line segments, these lines I drew. I'm going to connect those together to form the top edge of the cube. So it sort of looks like a book right now. Once I've done that, then I'm going to go here on the top left, and I'm going to go diagonal to the right, 6 line segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Going over here, I'm going to connect those lines together to form my cube. So down here in the bottom, if I would measure from here to here, that would be a 30-degree angle. So this graph paper is made intentionally so that when you draw objects, you automatically end up with a 30-degree angle if you're drawing objects with a straight edge as a reference point. So if we were drawing, let's say, a person, we would have to draw in some straight lines in order to make our person appear as an isometric view, which would be much more complicated than drawing just this cube that we made. So that's a basic isometric drawing of an object to show as much detail on each of the faces, the front, the right side, and the top as possible. For the next drawing, we're going to follow steps below to create a cube, but we're going to use additive and subtractive method. We just did additive, where we took stuff like lines and shapes and we added them together to make an object. Subtractive would be to subtract from parts of a whole. So we're going to draw a cube again, and we're going to make a additional cube on top, and we're going to take away part of our large cube. So just like we did before, we're going to make an artificial horizon down at the bottom just to help us be able to view. I'm going to pick a point in the center, bottom center of my graph paper, and I'm going to draw a cube just like I did before, except we're going to modify this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Connect these lines together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Connect those together. Okay. So we have our cube again, but now we want to add another box to the top here. So I'm going to make a box that is 2 line segments wide and 2 line segments deep and 2 line segments tall. So I'm going to start in this back corner. So I'm going to use that as my reference point because my cube is going to go in this back left corner I'm going to go over to the right 2 line segments, and I'm going to go down this way 2 line segments. I'm going to put a little point there to reference. I'm going to draw a box, and that's where this other cube is going to sit. That's the bottom edges of it. I'm going to erase some of these lines now that I drew, and now I can draw the rest of this cube on top of the large cube. So starting here on this point on the right, I'm going to go up 1, 2. This center point right here, I'm going to go up 1, 2, and this left corner up 1, 2. Connect those just like I'm making the large cube. 1, 2, and connect. Now I'm showing a cube on top of a bigger cube. But this cube had to come from somewhere. So we're going to indicate on here that this smaller cube came from the front right corner of this larger cube. So using this corner as a reference, I'm going to go over to the right 1, 2, and down 1, 2. Make a point. And I'm going to do the same thing on the front of the cube. This is the front. I'm going to go 1, 2, down 1, 2. Make a point. And I'm going to draw a line down, draw a line to the left, draw a line down, draw a line to the right. I'm going to then go to this intersection, and I'm going to go over 1, 2, and I'm going to connect those lines together. These 3 lines inside I'm going to erase. So this is the subtractive method. I'm taking something away from this larger cube to show that a chunk is missing. So now from this corner, I'm going to go down 1, 2, and I'm going to draw lines going outward, down, and I'll do 1 line up and down. And now you can see that there's a chunk coming out where this cube was. So we removed a part and placed it up here. So that would be the subtractive method, as we remove material from a larger whole. So think of it sort of like carving something out of clay. You have a big chunk of clay and you remove material from that clay to make a sculpture. So at this point, this is the end of doing the isometric drawings on this sheet. The next video will describe how to do the different 1 and 2 point perspective drawings.